I have an update for the potentially explosive lawsuit that is questioning the accuracy of the 2024 election. The plaintiffs in the case have actually begun submitting documentation as part of discovery. Smart Legislation, the action arm of the nonpartisan watchdog group Smart Elections, submitted a series of questions as well as documentation to the Rockland County Board of Elections in New York last week. Lulu Friesdat, the founder and executive director of Smart Legislation, said in a statement to Newsweek that, quote, the best way to reassure the public about the accuracy of the election results in Rockland County, New York, is to conduct a full, transparent hand recount of the 2024 presidential and Senate elections. That is why we have requested it, and so far the judge seems to agree. Now, on the other side, of course, you had a spokesperson for the Rockland County telling Newsweek that it had filed a motion to dismiss, which, by the way, includes a request for a stay of all discovery. Now, wait a minute here. That to me is kind of interesting. Why would you want to stay discovery then? I mean, if you want to prove that the election is on the up and up and that this case has no merit, then wouldn't you submit documentation to support your side and say, look, there wasn't any issues with the Rockland County results, and so therefore you don't need to do this case? But no, they don't want to show that. Now, the lawsuit here is claiming that there were irregularities in these voting machines, not just in Rockland, but in places all across the country. The complaint had cited numerous statistical anomalies in the election results, including that in multiple districts where hundreds of voters had chosen, for example, the Democratic candidate Kirsten Gillibrand for Senate. However, none of them, zero, I'm talking zero, voted for former Vice President Kamala Harris. That is bizarre. That's very bizarre. That's very strange. And the complaint also said that more voters had sworn in legal affidavits that they had voted for an independent U.S. Senate candidate, Diane Sayre, who was also a plaintiff, than the Board of Elections had counted and certified. So, again, very, very strange stuff going on here. Now, Judge Rachel Tanguay of the New York Supreme Court agreed that there's some weird stuff going on and allowed this suit to go forward. In May, she had ruled that the allegations were serious enough to allow for discovery to proceed. In a separate order filed earlier this month, Tanguay said that all discovery must be completed within about 7 months. So, I mean, it's a lot of discovery, apparently, and already there's about 15 pages from Smart, and more very likely to come. And now the plaintiffs are seeking any evidence about how the 2024 election was conducted due to these irregularities that were detailed in the initial complaint. According to Smart Legislation's press release, documents requested include information about the voting machines, the voter rolls, the software updates, more on that, hardware, including forensic-grade copies of hard drives, diagrams of all the equipment, including network and Wi-Fi components, and the flash drives that carry election results. Board of Elections has been asked to provide documents concerning any actual or alleged irregularities, errors, problems, or misalignment of election results or voter rolls in the 2020 or 2024 presidential elections, according to documents. They're also they're also asking for security protocols, such as rules for password creation, chain of custody procedures, lists of workers, financial interactions, very detailed, such as vendor contracts and communication with voting machine manufacturers, including election systems and software and testing lab Pro V&V. Now, Smart Elections reported in February that that there was a software update to some of ES&S systems that were not sufficiently tested. Jack Cobb, director of the federally accredited testing lab Pro V&V, was like, hey, whoa, these changes, they were not of any significance, okay? This update changed basically nothing. It was barely a blip. Now, of course, Smart Legislation says they had spoke with a technical advisor who was like, actually, no, this is not a small change, okay? These updates actually constituted a major change and need to be looked into. Okay, need to look into this as to see what the changes actually were. What did they change, and did any of those changes mess anything up? Smart legislation also asked the Board of Elections to answer questions about modem or Wi-Fi or cellular connections to Rockland County's election systems, and to confirm if it has ever either used Starlink satellites direct cell service or a program known as ballot proof. Now, Starlink, Elon Musk owns that. Elon Musk gave millions of dollars to Donald Trump's reelection. If they ended up using Musk's service to connect to the internet, I mean, that could be a big red flag here. Okay, that is something that needs to be looked into. Smart also asked if any individual or organization had made any type of complaint or expressed concern about possible inaccuracies in election results from January 1st, 2020 to the present. So, again, what they're asking for is pretty comprehensive. All right. Now, Friesdat said in a statement provided to Newsweek, one of our main concerns at this point is whether the chain of custody of the ballots and the equipment has been robust enough for the public to have confidence in the paper ballots. That is the reason for many of our discovery requests. The Rockland County Board of Elections, who does not want this lawsuit to move forward, as I mentioned, will still have to respond to the discovery requests and, of course, try to answer those questions. The next hearing is scheduled for September 22nd, and the case is expected to go to trial early next year. Now, let's be clear. I don't know, and I'm not saying Donald Trump cheated. I don't have any evidence of that. But there's some weird things in this when you look into it. The drop-off rate, for example, which is described as when voters cast a ballot for one candidate but left others blank or voted cross-party. That right there is really compelling to me because normally there's about a 1 to 2% drop-off rate. Okay? Harris, compared to Gillibrand, in Rockland County had a 9% drop-off rate. 9%. That is bizarre and really high, but it actually gets even higher when you look at Trump versus the Republican Senate candidate. Trump had received 23% more votes than the Republican senator. That's weird. That's very weird. According to Max Bonamente, a professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, quote, these data would require extreme sociological or political causes for their explanation and would benefit from further assurances as to their fidelity. Again, nobody here involved in this suit is alleging like Elon Musk stole the election, right? With the Starlink and everything. No, they're not alleging that. They're saying, hey, we found these things that are statistically highly unlikely. Why don't we look into this? We would like to do some hand-counted paper ballots to basically confirm that, yes, maybe there was something that was very, very unlikely that actually did happen. Why don't we look into it? Why don't we look into it? And you know what? There's no harm in looking into this. Okay? Now, here's the thing. As far as like, okay, weird, like extreme sociological or political causes for this, I can't think of anything. I mean, for Harris, look, it's not like the protests that were against genocide and people, deciding not to vote for Harris as a result of her unwavering support for Israel, and the Biden administration's unwavering support for Israel caused this drop-off. And why do I say that? Well, because those same voters wouldn't have also supported Kirsten Gillibrand, who also supports Israel. Harris and Gillibrand are both members of the Democratic establishment. So as far as that drop-off, you can't really easily explain it, at least not when it comes to that reason alone. Again, these same voters would not have supported Gillibrand if they also didn't support Harris as a result. And so, yeah, it's weird. Now, there's more weird stuff. Turns out, beyond the affidavits, many Democrats in the area reported being turned away from polling places after being told that they had already voted and checking ballot tracking systems only to find out that their vote was marked as not cast. And that's not to mention some of the bomb threats and other threats of polling places that happened during the election. And so I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. Hopefully, this can shed some light on it, this lawsuit. Again, I'm not saying 100% that all this is nefarious, right? It could be errors, could be very unlikely events, but it also could be nefarious. That's why we have to look into it. We don't know. We just don't know. That said, guys, at the end of the day, I know this is not going to overturn the election. Why? The election's already been certified. Okay. And there is no constitutional vehicle to overturn an election. It's the same thing, like reason that the 2020 election, right? If they had found, the fraud, there was still, and there wasn't, by the way, there wasn't fraud in the 2020 election. There wasn't Joe Biden stealing the election, right? They still couldn't overturn that election even if they wanted to. And they tried. They tried a lot. They tried very, very hard to do so. And so this won't do that either, okay? So then why do it? Why is this lawsuit important then? Well, I don't know. Maybe secure our elections? Voting machines can be vulnerable to hacks and other things, or they could just mess up. How many times has a software update accidentally broke your machine? Whether it be your computer or your phone or whatever. That does happen. Happens all the time. So yes, I think it is important to get to the answers as to why these results happen the way they were, why these errors, why these irregularities popped up. And more importantly, what can we do to actually fix those things? And if we can't fix those things, well then maybe that means we end up going back to hand-counted paper ballots. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.